Okay, here is what we are going to do today. Sometimes you go on that there old internet, especially the wrestling community, and there is way too much negativity. Sometimes you have to be a positive Pete and look for the best in every single situation, because then when you open your own forbidden door and you go outside, you will skip along and you'll feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. So everybody sit down, because this is what we gotta do. Because yes, my friends, at the 2022 Royal Rumble, Kelly returned to the WWE, and while this was nice and she got a good reaction from the fans, there was just so many old faces in that thing that eventually the surprise element was stolen away, even more so because WWE told us all the damn surprises before the day. She also wasn't in the ring very long, although I'm sure it was an awesome day for Kelly, but this is just what we did this year. We had to pack it out as best we could. Here is the thing though, while many entrants weren't able to do much of anything, Kelly took her 65 seconds, and yes, it was actually 65 seconds, and she made the most of it, much like she has always done every time she comes back. And you're rolling your eyes now and going, oh, but she can't even run the ropes properly. Well, one, running the ropes is really hard. Have you ever tried to run the ropes? And two, I think, as already mentioned, we should look at the good stuff. Because as we know, when Kelly was hired in the mid-2000s, WWE had a very specific policy when it came to recruiting women, and it was basically they wanted models who they would then try and train into wrestlers. It's because they weren't interested giving them much time in the ring. In fact, more often than not, you were lucky if you got a couple of minutes. It was kind of ridiculous. Kelly was the same and was actually recruited by then head of talent relations Johnny Laurinaitis through a modeling agency. And yes, if you do go back and observe this time period, a lot of it is disgusting. Vince McMahon's Devils, for example, just felt like an awful and awkward way to get some segments on your television that would make you squirm, because I guess from WWE's vantage point, they couldn't fathom a world where they didn't have some TNA on their shows. But believe you me, they shouldn't have done it. Around the same time, the decision was made to revive ECW, and somehow these things converged, because Kelly did appear on Extreme Championship Wrestling, or the WWE version, and she was told, you're gonna be an exhibitionist and you just going to strip. I mean, there is footage out there where she does just take off a robe, and the only thing covering her bits, my parents watched this, were some playing cards. So it became quite clear very quickly that while Raw and SmackDown may be headed towards a PG era, apparently ECW is where we were going to go to ensure the Attitude Era was never going to die, even though certain elements of that era really needed to die. Kelly has also said in interviews that it was Vince McMahon who taught her how to strip, and that may be the worst thing I've ever heard in my life, and I never want to see that footage if it does exist. But even in spite all this, Kelly just had a sympathetic way about her, and she made a connection with the fan base who would often get behind her and give her big reactions that were talked about as she came to the ring. So yeah, she really did have this natural sympathy that just radiated from her. And no, while she wasn't Terry Funk in the ring, I know what people do in comments, she did improve and she did get better every single week. And when you actually compare her to a lot of her contemporaries, well, I think she was pretty damn good. This lasted for a solid 6 years before she decided she'd done enough and she left the company. But by 2018, everybody had decided, oh, this feels like nostalgia now. So she was invited back for the first ever Women's Royal Rumble. She arrived at number 19, didn't throw anybody out and only lasted 5 minutes. But once again, fans were very happy to see Kelly. And even though Natalya tried to throw her out instantly, she was able to stay in. She booted her away and went to work on Michelle McCool. And while the subsequent Hurricane Rana wasn't the most smooth thing you've ever seen in your life, it's all about the damn perseverance. Sally Nia Jax did soon chuck her over the top rope to the floor, and you did hear a few fans go like, oh man, that sucks. Which brings us to 2022. I've already mentioned that Kelly only had around about 1 minute here, and once again she went for that Hurricane Rana, and I wouldn't call it perfect, but let's not worry about that, and let's focus on what happened next. Because when Sasha Banks smacked her right in the back, she sold this like a hero. Because there it is, once again, the sympathy. Kelly ×2 knows how to contort her body so it looks like she's in pain. So you're sat in your seat going, get up, Kelly, you can do it. Kelly then decided the best way to try and get Sasha out of there was to head to the apron and try and reverse Hurricane Rana to the floor. But instead, Banks shoved her off and hurled her to the floor. And I'm gonna keep this nice and simple. That looked awesome. I mean, for one, it was just a crazy bump and there's no way that it wouldn't have hurt, but also during a rumble that in places was pretty dull, this was actually kind of exciting. Because seriously, look at it this way. I'm sure Kelly will be brought back in because that's just how things work. But if that is the last move she ever takes, then my word, she is going out on a high. Because she didn't have to, and I bet there was a little bit of an eye roll when somebody said, "Haha, Kelly, we're only going to give you 60 seconds, but she decided to maximize her minutes, a phrase we have heard many a time from the top of wrestling. Kelly has also now popped up in 3 Rumbles, had a 24/7 championship run, whatever that means, but also more importantly, is only 35 years old. So if somebody does want to invite her back from an elongated run, well, there's every chance she could make the most of it. I mean, given the new structure that women's wrestling does have in the modern day, she may be able to adapt even better still. And all of this when she has to face a bunch of craziness on their social media. People going, "Oh man, she's rubbish. She doesn't know what she's doing." And no, once again, she ain't the greatest wrestler ever, but she certainly has aspects to her game that I think deserve more praise, which is what we have decided to do today, and you never saw it coming. And who's to say she wouldn't surprise us? Maybe she gets in there with Charlotte Flair and they have a banger. Becky Lynch, Asuka, she could come back and do something. I think there's the tools here, and once again, if you were looking for your quintessential babyface, may I present to you, in my hand, the one and only Kelly. 2 things as well before we do wrap up this video. She debuted when she was 19 years old after barely any training, so she was learning on the job, which is even more impressive. And also, her real name is Barbie Blank, and yet we changed it to Kelly. This is one of those situations where I stare off into the ether, because professional wrestling doesn't make any sense. Also, before I do leave you, I have a list of her championships and accomplishments courtesy of Wikipedia, because she won the Dare to Be Different award, and 2B is written the number 2 and a B, because why wouldn't it? Most Improved Wrestler of the Year in the Baltimore Sun. See, I told you it's not just me. PWI ranked number 15 of the top 50 singles wrestlers in the PWI Female 50 in 2011. WWE 24/7 Championship 1 time, WWE Divas Champion 1 time, and she had a Slammy Award Divalicious Moment of the Year when she won the Divas Championship. Scratch that last one, but the rest of it, I'm standing by. No, wait, I missed one. She also was nominated for Favorite Butt Kicker, the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards in 2012. All right, look, I shouldn't have done that. That was a mistake, but I'm pleased we did this video, and I intend to do more of them, and I'm gonna continue to poke my fun. This is all falling apart at the end. Let's just move on. Now make sure you leave nice words in the comments. Remember, this was a Positive Pete show, and if you get all negative down there, well, I'm not going to do anything. That is your right, and you're allowed to do it. But know that somewhere I'll know. It'll just go off in my head. Then like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Make sure you head over to whatculture.com, where you can read articles such as this with your eyes if you're more into reading than you are watching. But why are you here to begin with? But don't go anywhere. We appreciate you. Make sure you watch another video. Yeah, get that watching going, and come say hello on social media. But once again, be nice. I'm going to be watching. My name is Simon for What Culture. Thank you for joining me as always. And thank you to Kelly for showing that you can put positivity and grit into everything and get something out on the other side. Goodbye.